where was I got a call. This is the time that I do my videos, so it's 6:45. En as mense wat voel hulle wil die tyd met jou praat, it's terrible. But anyway, so what I was basically saying is that I try to be the exception, right? And I thought I'd make that the center of this video, where you do not need to be a statistic. You do not need to be the norm. It is okay for you to break that mold. It is okay for you to go higher than what the average person in your situation is doing. And it is quite fine to break barriers. It is quite fine to step out of what is expected for you and achieve more. And you will be surprised at what you are able to achieve by being the exception. Whether it be, because one thing that a lot of people are experiencing is they hear things like, yeah, people that come from your area generally, people that come from your family generally, people that come from your race, your demographic, your background, your situation, they generally, and fill in the blank. This could refer to anything. Drinking habits, how they approach relationships, their relationship with their children, how they approach their work. How many times have you heard people say, but you know, your family is most stubborn people. It is okay for you to say, yes, that is them, that is not me. You know? And start breaking. I mean, some people will talk about breaking generational curses, whatever you want to call it. But you need to start making it your norm, making it your business to become the exception. People must look at you and be surprised at your results. Surprise yourself if you need to, if you have to. Because in this day and age of trends and social media and people influencing each other on a very, very high scale, where such a lot of things has happened, where people have a reference point that can go, I don't know how far back. You can be the exception. I'm going to use an example. You can be from Hanover Park. You can be from Heideveld. You can be from Menenberg. You can be from Mitchells Plain. You can be from East River. You can be from Scottsville. You can be from Bloekombos. And have people expect a certain thing from you, and you can break that norm. And you can be the exception. You can come from a broken home, and you can be the exception. You can be the one guy that doesn't conform to the stats. Be that guy. To be super does not require superpowers. It just requires you to make a choice. Guys, then that brings me to my next point. And I'm going to close with this because I actually want to use this as the next video. The power of choice is highly, highly underestimated. It is highly under-discussed. The power of making the choice. Because a lot of times, the only reason that you did not do one thing and did the other is because you chose not to. I hear this every day. I hear people being in relationships for 10, 15 years. They could never be faithful. They were messing around. They were not dedicated to the relationship. And then they meet somebody else, and all of a sudden they change. And now they are dedicated, they are faithful, they are motivated, they want to be a better person. What was the difference? It is making the choice. I know people that are currently going through something. It is tough. They choose not to give up. They say, guy, I have no choice. If I must choose to give up now, my family suffers, my wife suffers, my kids suffers. I choose to keep my head above water because survival, and yet it is a choice. It is a choice. So keep that in mind. I want to talk about that on the next video. The power of the choice. But for now, I wanna remind you and say, be the exception. Be the exception. Because nobody said you have to conform to what people are expecting of you. You have to conform to where you're from and what your history is and all that. Be the exception. Good morning, everybody. You know what I want to talk about? I haven't had a morning talk with you guys in a while. So I thought at the end of this week I'll have a little bit of a chat. So you know what I was thinking? Somebody spoke to me yesterday. We had a long chat. So I tend to talk to a lot of people. I tend to use a lot of people as a soundboard. I ask for quite a bit of advice, and I like to hear people's thoughts. Because as a salesperson, as an account manager, as somebody that is in logistics, a lot of your time is spent listening, or a lot of my time is spent listening to the people that I talk to. And where this came from is actually me, having a coaching session with somebody. And I was telling that person that one of the major misconceptions about being in sales is that you need to do most of the talking. Because what you need to try to do is to sell. And you need to convince the person on the other end to take something that they really don't want. And that is why a lot of salespeople tend to be liars, man. A lot of salespeople will say what they think you want to hear in order to close the deal. And something that I don't do that. I don't do that as a salesperson. And if you look at my sales career, I have been quite successful, right, within my sales career. And as I'm talking to this guy, he turns to me and he says, but without thinking, he says, but you're almost the exception. And for a minute there, I get what he was trying to say. But it kind of struck me a little bit, and I asked him, what do you mean? Because I was fishing for compliments, obviously. And he was like, my guy, one thing that I can tell you about you is that you are not your average Joe. Whatever the stats are on the average, I always try to push within the space of being the exception. Like in a society where it is acceptable and it is the norm to be one way, I tend to challenge that. And that is why when sales strategies falter down and they talk about sell, tell the customer what he wants to hear, you need to close the deal and you need to move on to the next sale, I take that with a pinch of salt. And I tend to kind of just push in the other direction.